Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? What is a sensor? How is censorship defined? So, my rights continue to be violated. That continues to be profound and extensive stress, but just moving directly into our derivation. And so, we've been talking a lot about exponentiation. We've talked a lot about how it is a different operator. We've kind of directly stated that, again, all operation is one chronology. Right? If you're doing subtraction, you kind of mentally say to yourself, what negative number do I add to this? And then overall, you just have operationality, just doing one thing to something else, which you've kind of said is all the same. But regardless, why is exponentiation different as a mathematical operator in relation to addition and subtraction, which is really this dichotomy of operation, or multiplication and division, which is another kind of dichotomy to operation. Addition, multiplication, progressive, forward-moving, appreciative, subtraction and division, depreciative, taking away. So again, there's another kind of dichotomy also present for division and subtraction, as well as multiplication and addition. But overall, we have this statement, right? Ordinality is the order of things. What thing doesn't really matter. And then in math class specifically, you get presented with, at least in the American system, PEMDAS, but in mathematics, universally or globally, some sort of order of operation. Logically, that is completely contained generally within ordinality. Just the order of things, the order of mathematical operation is a thing. And so you get posed with PEMDAS, parentheses, exponentiation, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. But the dichotomy logically is present. People will say, right, if you have addition and subtraction, which one comes first? Whatever one's written first. Right? What comes first for multiplication or division? What one's written first? Then we have exponentiation, right? It's kind of its unique thing. And then parentheses is like, why do parentheses exist in mathematical equations? It's truly like, I want to say almost to the point of like author emphasis. It's like, hey, I'm trying to construct something. Again, all equations are statements of property. Again, identity is, properties equate, but logical difference for now. But this exponentiation or parentheses is, again, when you're constructing an equation at all, right? You're coming from some level of conceptualization, and you're saying this is related to this, this equals this. And so parentheses is just like an emphasis of your construction of conceptualization. Again, not really like a meaningful, it's not an operation, right? It's just telling you what you should do first, and there's some insight to, again, how you've constructed that equation or that term, that mathematical representation. But we have this operation that doesn't have dichotomy, just exponentiation, right? PEMDAS, parentheses, not really a thing, and then the first thing you do is exponentiation, right? Because it's this statement of identification. Universally, it's this containment of information of universal progression. And so that is why exponentiation is first, and it does not have dichotomy when you're presented logically. And with PEMDAS, addition, subtraction, just whatever one comes first, division, multiplication, whatever one's written first. Exponentiation is exponentiation, and it comes first because it is identity. It's the mathematical operation of identity. And then your power, your exponent, right? Exponentiation is the concept that contains this form a to the n, a being a base, n being the power / exponent. Being explicit again with our logic, we're using power and exponent interchangeably at this point mathematically. But that is why exponentiation is first. That is why exponentiation does not have dichotomy. It is what it is. There was just one, and there was this unique containment and unique progression of property universally of one thing, two things, many things. And then all of our numbers are pretty much in this realm of what we've called cardinality. But that is why PEMDAS. And so we'll get to that again in the natural flow of our derivation. That is certainly a big step to start with. And we just continue to progress through our linguistic steps, going to arrive at a definition. What is censorship? How is a censor naturally defined? by direct linguistic iteration. And again, overall analytically, we're just explicitly showing you these containment steps of, again, generosity contains the letters of energy. When somebody says good vibes, you are using a fundamental physical appeal to, again, to generosity exclusively, right? Good vibes are generous. And so there's this uniqueness of pairing of operative word to experience, and we're showing that this natural definition of what is a sensor. And again, we have this range or this domain. Still, we're kind of asking what is a function, or what is this unique relationship of consistency and uniqueness throughout linguistics. But we have clearly emotion and motion. And so our range, our domain is emotion. We get some sort of conceptualization. Somebody says something, consensus, sentient says something. And we can derive this unique relationship linguistically of how sensor is uniquely related to something else well defined in linguistics. And it gives us our full definition, our functional physical definition. What is sensorality? So we move along. Sensorality is a silicious correlation. Nice. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality appreciates exponentiation. Direct iteration. Again, the syllability, the letters assigned to sound and meaning that we are integrating directly into ontology is sensorality. Again, all natural definitions are linguistic properties. This is related to this. Sensorality is potent appreciation. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is potency to intensity? What is intensity to fluency? Is fluent potent? Direct iteration. Exponentiation is influential. Direct iteration, emphasizing that en. Sensorality, en in exponential and influential. Sensorality is influential exponentiation. Natural definition, direct iteration. A destination is a site. Natural definition. Is a goal a site? Sensorality is a goal. Sensorality is goality. This was another word form from the elementality. Directly struck me when we derived coality, just the general word form. Then it produces the word coal, ity. And again, some relationship directly from C to G. Coality, goality. And then you produce the word goal. But this sequence came directly from the conceptualization and spelling of a goal, like a goalie, like a goalkeeper. Sensorality is goality. Sensorality is a coal goal. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is coal cool? Sensorality is proportionality. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing this radial symmetry away from the letter P in that fourth elemental slot. We have P, R, O, P, O, R. So some sort of this radial symmetry is directly present in the linguistic progression as well. What is proportionality to stability? What is proportionality to radiality? What is radiality to chirality? Is chirality radial? Is chirality radical? What is proportionality to conditionality? Is diction conditional? What is ratiality to radiality? Direct iteration, again emphasizing this complete elemental thing, like loving is moving. The only difference is the L and the M, and they're one elemental slot consolidated outside of me or you, the English alphabet, that order, that ordinality, right? Ratiality, radiality, C to D, one element. Is addition conditional? Conditionality is dependency. Sensorality is dependency. Natural definition, direct iteration. Everything is connected, but nothing is touching. Is anything dependent? Is sensorality dependent on speciality? Is range base dependent? Is fluent dependent? Direct iteration. What is fluent to filament? Is a fiber a filament? What is filament to pigment? Color is pigmentation. Natural definition. Sensorality is pigmentationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is money to exponentiation? Sensorality exponentiates money to the moon. Direct iteration, emphasizing again, exponentiate, exponent, has and contains this word one directly sequentially. Sensorality sensorates. Vibration sensorates. Direct iteration. Analytically, right, like exponentiate contains the word one directly with no iteration, meaning no alternation of syllables or letters. There's no letters in between the word one. It's completely contained in exponent. It seems to me like just kind of like a trivial step, because a lot of these things will say this is orality, like sensorality is assortmentality, but it's like orality is like broken up, but you can still clearly like see the iteration of this elementality. But whether the word's completely contained sequentially or it's iterated within the word or the linguistic structure seems trivial. Again, just pointing out anything that's present. What is vibration to oration? Does orality vibrate? Is the universe deterministic? Is the universe dichotomistic? So this was directly pulled from the elementality of, once again, our not favorite criminal, Sean Carroll. He had a wonderful conversation with Peter Singer. A couple quick notes on that. Sean uses, again, this dichotomy that makes me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Sean says he negotiated the water. You don't negotiate. Everyone says negotiate when they mean navigate. You don't circumnegotiate the globe. He says the universe is expanding because he's a lying, fraudulent criminal. It's contracting because it's cooling down. And then the other note I had from their conversation is, you can see in this thing, Sean's on a podcast trying to be respectful to another one of his, colleague. I feel like I've heard of this Peter Singer guy before, but certainly Peter Singer's trying to sit down and have a conversation and do a podcast, so he's doing his thing. He's got Sean Carroll on there, and Peter's trying to ask some philosophical question about the color red. You can very clearly, at this point, Sean Carroll would be like, if you were a student in his class, you'd be like, STFU, you're wrong, this is the right answer, but he's trying to keep it cordial, and it's just, you can feel this and see this as the viewer of Sean and Peter's conversation, and as Sean himself, it's just that's the conceptualization. It's it's not a proper question. It doesn't mean anything, and that's exactly what Sean says is, oh, I have no idea what that could even mean. That's what the entirety of ontology is to me when people present physics is I don't know what you're saying. And overall, language is independent of one person. It's not a properly posed question. All of these questions that we are going through are just posed in this way to relate two concepts, so there's some sort of cadence, so there's some sort of flow. Right? Speciality is special with an ITY, is just a direct literal statement that's true. Speciality is the tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism. Is not it doesn't rhyme. It's not a thing you put on a coffee mug, because language differentiates. And we're just showing this completion of differentiation. But you can directly see how when you get posed a question that doesn't make sense, you can't respond to it. And then if you don't have a pat on the back and says, oh yeah, bro, I work at Hopkins, I have a PhD, people just say, you're mentally ill. And I'm doing fundamental mathematical proofing, and nobody else in the world ever has done mathematical proofing before. So it's the Dunning-Kruger effect is to the extreme, because all of these things I can prove anything to anybody as long as they will listen. But if people are arrogant, if people are offended, which happens immediately, can anybody listen? Again, to fundamental mathematical proof, directly empirically evident. Well, it is what it is. That's why we're here. But now back to the science, I directly just kind of skim. I watched probably about half of it, but kind of just move the YouTube buffering little thing just to a random part in the conversation. And Peter Singer is also trying to ask something about deterministic. Again, we've kind of already derived that historical ontological progression, but no, the universe is dichotomistic, right? There's this fundamental stability of two. There was a beginning, and then it progressed, it differentiated. Everything that you've ever articulated or been exposed to conceptually is in 3 dimensions, and so you just have this logical containment of understanding that there was a 1, there was a 2, and now there's many. And that's why the term dichotomy, there is this stability of 2 that you cannot break. but then you can kind of force when you're rooting something. In mathematics, that's the exact form of why there's a prime number and it only has the logical structure of itself and 1 as a root. There's still 2 elements and it's one thing, right? Dichotomistic is the logical representation of this fundamental stability of 2. Love and hate are 2 sides of the same coin. Energy and entropy, 2 sides of the same coin. I have to say 2 sides of the same coin because you're bounded by conceptualization. But it's this irreducible presence of 2 when you're describing one thing. But then you do have this unique chronology universally. So that's why historically you have this presence of people saying, is the universe deterministic? If I know a system or its particle and its position and its velocity, I can tell you what it's going to happen next. Okay, what is emotion? What is right? What you say when you don't know something. So there's all of this form of this language, and then we're back to this historical presence of, hey, why do people think if I know a particle's position and its velocity, that is deterministic? That means I can tell you everything there is to know about the universe. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like hilariously, stupidly wrong. It's like, I'm not going to prove to you that Santa Claus is real or not real. I'm going to prove to you that the Easter Bunny actually had a baby with Poseidon, and now the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus are double real with the Tooth Fairy. And then you're just over like, what is occurring? And that's how fundamental physical ontology strikes me, because you guys don't know that energy is movement potential. That's like the biggest conceptual, just like start here for physics. Yeah, but is the universe deterministic? No. Is the universe dichotomistic? Yes. Then this is where we're at with revisiting PEMDAS. So again, directly chronologically that's where we started. But that's why exponentiation is first, is because it is a statement of identity. Right, all prime numbers only have 2 roots, itself and 1. Right, the 1 is the invariant, the 1 is constant, the 1 is the same, 1 is universal, 1 is 1. And then ordinality, that is why exponentiation is first. Equations execute, direct iteration. Again, when you state a mathematical equation, when you put an equation sign, you're making a logical statement of execution. If there's any sort of variable, right, you solve a system of equation, some sort of logical syllogism. But equations execute. Equations relate. Identity is. What is a property and to an identity? It's our big kind of dichotomy logically. Identity is 1, universality is 1, it is what it is linguistically. A property is a relation, a property is an equation. Pressure and volume equals some amount of moles times some constant, which is really the dynamic limit, and it's related to temperature. But temperature is temperature, pressure is pressure, volume is volume, right? Everything is infinitely unique. Its definition, its sufficient differentiation based on functionality in relation to everything else in ontology. Go to the store means something different than do a backflip. Sensorality is the only identity. Natural definition, direct iteration. Conceptually and linguistically, again, showing this complete differential from linguistics. Sensonality, which again sensorality has conceptualization, orality. Sensonality, sonality doesn't have conceptualization, is the only identity, emphasizing own, O-N-L-Y. Again, direct iteration of sensonality. Does identity change? Can identity change? Can people change? Do people hope? Direct iteration. So, do people hope? That was directly from, again, Sean Carroll and Peter Singer's conversation. They have another lady on there who's a host, and she's like, hey, well, what do you think? What's your definition of love? And then Sean's like, oh, I don't want to give you a definition because other people have given definitions, but I could, and I don't want to do them disservice by, not putting a lot of thought into where other people have. Doesn't matter. Language is literal. All of the results are independent of one person. Some formalization of respect. A set of actions that shows respect for one's life. But point being is all definition, again, is just this refinement, this spectrum of specificity and generality where there's syllogism, there's common denominator, there's common syllability. And you just show this iteration of consonants. But what is love to hope? Do people hope? Do people change? What is identity to personality? Sensorality is one hope. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is hope to harmony? Sensorality is harmonious. Sensorality is parsimonious. So that was a natural derivation, but I'm a person, frankly, I didn't heard it, didn't know what parsimonious meant. Googled it, and it's the opposite. Fundamental theorem of emotion. Parsimoniosity is the opposite of generosity. Natural definition, direct iteration. But emphasizing on a direct personal level, this inversion is contained within the conceptual progress in the letters. I truly didn't know what parsimonious meant. Certainly a word I've heard before, but definitely not something, hey Brad, what is parsimonious? Again, positive, negative connotation. Frankly, I probably would have said positive. But sensorality is harmonious, directly know what that is, and then harmonious, and then parsimonious, right? Harmonious, good connotation, parsimonious, negative connotation. Directly derive parsimonious from harmonious because of the elementality. And it's just, again, you come across this natural inversion of connotation, of logic, even without knowing what the words mean. But parsimoniosity is the opposite of generosity. Parsimonious. So here's a fundamental empirical fact. Liability is the ability to lie. Again, this natural definition functionality of all language, you can see it independent of me, chick on Wheel of Fortune, the kids at her school, they have the chance to they have the opportunity to get a lollipop opportunity, again, a direct natural definition, right? Liability, this word we use in legal discourse, certainly, certain clear conceptual everyday use, but liability, the ability to lie. Can you lie to yourself? Right? Sensorality is the inability to lie. Natural definition, direct iteration, specifically to its fundamentally empirical to lie to yourself. What is forgetting to lying? Can you lie? Yes. Can you forget? I also want to say yes. Like I want to say a hard yes to that as well. But what's the difference between lying and forgetting? What is identity to inability? Viscosity enables velocity, direct iteration. So now again, getting away from the use of the verb specifically is to any other word, right? Is identity. And so any other verb is kind of some sort of differentiation, but that's where this range where we can show the direct iteration of the syllability and then reduce it down to this fundamental definition of how a sensor is already defined, even without Brad's explicit acknowledgement, knowing very certain that science team has had the answer for a long time, but any other verb besides is kind of like range or domain mathematically. Resistance enables, right? enables. Sensorality is inability. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality enables inability. Direct iteration, sen-en. What is enacting to enabling? Googled the word enabling. Again, another spelling just struck me as funny. But now we have E-N-A-B, the letter L, which is kind of like a line sometimes, like a line of symmetry even, an axis of symmetry sometimes. And then our fundamental syllable ing. So we have A-B, again, this 1, 2, and in the elemental order, this E-N, which sometimes I get flashbacks of France. But again, we're getting into this direct syllability where we show, I'm pretty sure, again, the consonants, which is still a light conjecture of what exactly is iterating. 99% sure it's consonants, but emphasizing this form en, 1, 2, l, fundamental syllable ing, enabling. Sensorality enables. Direct iteration. Is potential enabling? Is capacity enabling? What is property to capacity? What is property to potentiality? What is property to proportionality? Sensorality is proportional opportunity. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is synchronicity to opportunity? Again, success is when luck meets preparedness. Right? Me too included. I can't break the conceptualization that is present in our culture. We were just showing some sort of derivative of completeness of syllability for this definition. I can't answer questions that don't have logical structure, just like you can't answer questions. You guys just can't pose any because you guys are stupid. Sensorality proportionates. Direct iteration. Sensorality is proportionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Are algorithms logical? Direct iteration. Is logic algorithmic? Sensorality is identicality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is entity to identity? Sensorality is entirely. Natural definition, direct iteration. This was an interesting word on a direct personal level, right? Entirely, something I say very naturally. You take off the ly, and all ly's are hyphens. What is entire? Entire is whole. But tire, struck me worth pointing out. Entire is whole one. Sensorality is one whole. Natural definition, direct iteration. Gen is one to many wholes. What is rhythm to vibration? What is the minimization of steps to potential movement? From rhythm to algorithm, previously we've kind of loosely stated, without rigorous understanding of inversion, which we're still demonstrating functionality in inversion. What is a function completely in mathematics, but just what is a sensor? And all of this containment linguistically has to be correct. But is rhythm and vibration an inverse? It's kind of just a question or a statement we've made previously, but directly substituting our definitions. Rhythm, the minimization of steps, the direct empirical headspace. If you try to do something more efficiently to form a rhythm, you're minimizing steps. And then vibration, this logical identity to energy, movement, potential. Just change the order of the words. Potential, movement. You try to confine motion. Everything is moving. Everything is in motion. You try to confine that. You get a vibration physically. Logically, mathematically, potential movement. What is the minimization of steps to potential movement? Sensorality minimizes potential movement. Direct iteration, logically still some sort of relationship of optimization. Is optimal, is minimum optimal, is maximum optimal? It's dynamic. Optimality is dynamic, some sort of relationship of limitation and exponentiation, maximization and minimization. It's kind of the logic going on there. Is momentum a maximum or minimum? Direct iteration. Emphasis on the What is meter to arithmetic? Kind of blanked on that word in the last episode when we were talking about a 1 and a 2 and setting a meter. Metronome, meter. What is meter to arithmetic? What is meter to cadence? What is meter to metric? What is meter to elementality? Metric, symmetric. What is meter to symmetry? What is elementality to symmetry? Is identity continuous? Rhythm regulates symmetry. What is symmetry to synchronicity? Is symmetry chronic? What is rhythm to charisma? Is dancing riz? Is smooth sigma? Is sensorality aura? Beat you, Gen Z or Gen Alpha or whoever generation's coming up next. I will learn all of the slang for my entire life. Don't you doubt me. Sensorality is a smooth sensation. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is sensation moot? Moot, rendered useless by observation. What is observation to sensation? Direct iteration. What is moot to must? Stinky is musty. Elon is musky. That's the stupidest joke ever. What is incubation to inoculation? Is inoculation circular? Sorry, I'm laughing at my own stupid joke. Is inoculation nocturnal? Direct iteration. What is experience to sensation? Sensorality is a sensible experience. I don't know, Elon Musky. That is the stupidest shit ever. But it's, I don't know, it just made me laugh. Sensorality is a sensible experience. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is an emotional experience. Experience is a roller coaster. Natural definition. What is spelling to wording? Sensorality is wording. Natural definition, direct iteration, again, emphasizing word, again, our fundamental kind of syllable that we introduce. Again, I'm emphasizing the chronology and the order. Sensodorality was the conceptualization of odor, for sure. But it produced that extra syllable OD. Clearly, word it just is OD iterated by W and R. And all of the word forms are directly apparent, but it's just the order. That's why I don't just like jump around anywhere. And it would feel so unnatural. Like it would feel, because this is all of the stuff we can prove, and there is infinitely many things we can't prove, and to like, just like not do one step after the next is just like, it would just, like, I don't think it would be it would feel so unnatural that it would just be like, I would just be like guessing. It would just not even strike me as mathematics anymore. But again, now we're pointing out sensorality is wording, this direct iteration of OD, what is a word? What is wording to pronunciation? What is wording to rhythm? Right? Word order is wording. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is word order. Natural definition, direct iteration. Directly taking the W from word, the whole word order, and then ality. Sensorality is worderality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is wonderful. So linguistically, sensorality, our syllability, letters associated to sound that we're directly integrating into all of ontology, provably, has these two linguistic containments, sensodorality and sensonality. Our fundamental RN relationship, obviously. We complete the R to an N. So sensonality, sensodorality, sensorality. Sensorality is wonderful. Sensorality is wonder. Fundamental theorem of emotion, wonder, having that ON from sensonality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality wonders about words. Direct iteration, sensorality is word wonder. Direct iteration emphasizing the fundamental RN relationship. All right. Is RN, is that an identity or is that a property? Like I am not RN. So that is me identifying, that is identity. Have I always been an RN? Yeah, that's been certified. So that's just identity. But if I were to call you an RN, that would be like equating something, right? Sensorality self-identifies. But we'll call that the fundamental RN property. But it could be a property or an identity. Wonder contains word. So that's another big emotion to motion, word motion, but fundamental definition or object linguistic representation, word, emotion, wonder, direct containment, wonder contains word, change contains charge. Sensorality is wonderful odor. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is pleasant appreciated. Sensorality appreciates easy. Direct iteration. Sensonality is wonderality. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing sensonality does not have phonetic implied conceptualization. Sensorality has orality. Sensorality enables wonder. Direct iteration. Is imagination wonderful? Again, now we have another word, imagination. Sensonality is imagination. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensonation is imagination. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is national identity. Sensorality is nationwide. Natural definition, direct iteration. So how are we doing this intellectual property stuff? Right? If you just say, oh, I named my company this, therefore trademark mine. And I say, wait a second, I have a constitutional right to my writings and discoveries. I'm the only person that's ever derived all of science before. How fun. It is what it is. That's my property. You just randomly said that. I proved it. So who has more eminent domain? Who has more right to that property? Or identity? How are we going to do this, guys? Remember, these are all the people that get degrees, and then have lawyers, just like Rob Sands at Constellation Brands, and he had a lawyer right there on the phone saying, Brad, we'll just get around your patent. We'll just steal your property and because we're stupid? And then we're going to go get our credentials from a school stealing from me? It sounds like a lot of racketeering, conspiracy, and theft, Bill. What are you going to do about that, Robert? That sounds like Constellation Brands is at a big old zero. I saw Corona slumped a little this quarter. Now we have a big problem. Lamar Advertising. Again, you didn't let me put up a billboard of a theorem. That's bold. Right? It's like, we won't put up a... We went through that whole situation. Not going to retell that story. But these are just companies. It's like, wow. Penguin Random House Publishing. All of those academic books you publish are just fraud, brother. What are we going to do about that? And now the entirety of intellectual property. Trademarking. They're all differentiations of it is what it is. And I've comprehensively described the structure of language. Who's got right to that trademark? Right, I just derived sensorality as nation, space wide, lowercase numbers, letters. And if you just put a capital N and a W and a TM, that's you? No, it's me. It's my constitutional right. I proved it is what it is. Conceptually, sensorality is nationwide, like width. Girth is nationwide. Brad's girth is nationwide. It's not. It's not. Moving along. Is eminent domain nationwide? Sensorality is a wide domain. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is domain context? Is a nation a context? Is inversion identity or property? Again, logically, before we've said something exists, physical, to differentiate one thing, it has to invert. So I want to say that's still identity. But then we have our fundamental stability of two. Physically, proton and electron are stable dynamics of charge. They both have internal property. They both have one unit of charge, but they're inverses. That's our fundamental physical, again, inversion. I want to say identity, but then we get to property, again, of relating stuff. An electron is not a proton. But they're both fundamental dynamics of charge with one unit, but dichotomistic, opposite. Charge, positive, negative. Again, is that the right logical representation? At this point, we're going to say sure. But if it comes back up, it will come back up. What is or to differentiation? Now, linguistically, we're getting, right, is inversion identity or property? What is the word or to differentiation? Sensorality. Just emphasizing some of these question statements are naturally presenting with or, and again, this enable, this or, sensorality is a word form to show this fundamental differentiation. What is inversion to innovation? Sensorality is novationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is Nova Scotia. Sensorality is innovative. What is innovation to iteration? Does innovating change? Is change limited? Is charge bounded? Sensorality is bounded charge. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is bound to vibration? Emphasis on the B. What is identity to innovation? Sensorality reinvents identity. Direct iteration. What is basis to crisis? So we just continue along with our derivation until we arrive at this direct iteration of what a sensorality is, showing the complete containment of its syllability and then reducing to, hey, here's what a sensor is in fundamental physics. And it has to be because here's our ontological structure and some sort of proof by, again, consensus. This systems tending to optimal efficiency happens independent of one person, happens in every system, which is everything. I guess system more than one, but the point being is we're just deriving and progressing through this process of analysis until we have a definition which is definite by definition. What is a sensor? My rights continue to be violated. It is profoundly and extensively illegal. I continue to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. I try to have fun presenting my stuff, but you truly have destroyed my life. that is what I have for now. Thank you for watching. Obviously, nobody will care. We'll see you on the next one.